Welcome to this demonstration of the CardExchange Cloud suite. Today I'm going to show you a typical enrollment journey using CardExchange Cloud. I'm going to be focusing on three main areas, which are self-service cardholder enrollment, issuance of virtual ID cards, and production and issuance of physical ID cards. As we go through the demonstration, I'll explain more about the different services and how they're used. But before I start, a sort of a brief introduction to CardExchange Cloud. So it's a complete end-to-end enrollment and credential management solution. We have a lot of functionality within it. We manage cardholder enrollment, virtual ID card issuance, mobile credential issuance, centralized and decentralized production of physical cards. We have photo approval, credential lifecycle management, third-party system integration, automated business rules, reporting, lifecycle tracking, and a lot more functionality. CardExchange Cloud has been developed to be flexible and scalable to your needs in terms of both functionality and number of available records to manage the scale and size of your business. It's the central hub of all of your credential management activities. So the idea is that CardExchange sits in the middle and it's where you manage everything to do with credential management, enrolling, onboarding and offboarding of staff, students, employees, whoever it might be you're managing. But everything you do relating to that card, both physical and digital, happens within CardExchange Cloud. And it prevents the need for you to have to manually update the details of a new card you issue in all of those third-party systems. So when the card's produced using CardExchange Cloud, we automatically, through our data integrations, update all of those downstream systems, access control, time and attendance, print and copy, lockers, barriers, whatever it might be. So as soon as that card's activated, all of those systems know what that card is and when it can be used, rather than you having to manually produce the card using traditional ID card production software and then manually update that card on all of those third-party systems. So it ensures that everything is fully up to date in real time, both in terms of credential information and also person information. The solution's Microsoft Azure hosted. We have dedicated instances in North America, Canada, the EU, UK, and Australia. So it gives a lot of options about where your data sits based on the location of your organization. And we're ISO 27001 certified as an organization. And we've done that really to demonstrate our commitment to securing the data and personal information of our users who are using the platform. To begin with, we're going to focus on Controller. Controller is what we have on screen right now, and Controller is the core of every CardExchange Cloud subscription. So I'll talk about the other services as we come through them and get to those as part of this demonstration. The Controller is the operator portal, so it's where all those day-to-day activities relating to adding and editing people, reviewing photographs, approving those, managing production control, managing reporting. So all of those day-to-day operator functions are carried out through Controller. And if we look at the interface here and we look at a typical record, we see that for any record we have photo information, personal information, address details, profile, so the type of person they are within the system, and that controls a lot of things relating to the physical card, the digital card, and also the data integrations. And then we have credential history, so you can see a complete audit trail of every single card or credential that's been issued to the person, when they were issued, who issued them, when they were activated, when they were blocked, why were they blocked, when were they replaced, and who replaced them. So that's part of that complete audit trail you have through the credential history. So we have the photo approval module, which we'll show you as part of the demonstration. This is where we review and approve or reject photographs. We have production control, which allows you to manage the statuses or the stages of creating, approving, issuing, and activating cards. And then lastly, we have the reporting module. So the first thing we have to consider when using CardExchange Cloud is really how are we going to get the data for people into the system? And you can do this in three main ways. So the first way is very simply you can manually enter data. You can click on add a new record, enter the information for the person, add their photograph manually, or add an email address to start the enrollment journey, which I will show you in a moment. You can import data from a CSV file, so we have CSV import functionality to import data in bulk. And then the third option is using the first service, or the second service we'll talk about, which is CardExchange Bridge. So CardExchange Bridge is our data integration service. It's a REST API based service which we use to write dedicated customers for specific projects. And these can be connectors, so incoming connectors into CardExchange, so maybe pulling data in from Active Directory, a human resources database, a student information system, or even a cloud or local based SQL or Oracle or Access database. And those connector services will run, so based on your location of where they need to be, either in the cloud or locally, and then they will synchronize data from your source data into CardExchange Cloud on an agreed schedule based on the business rules for what type of data, what filters, what groups we're applying to select which data comes into CardExchange. And so we have a growing suite of those incoming connectors, which we can reconfigure for each installation, each project. We can also write new dedicated connectors for specific systems. And the same applies to outgoing connectors. So once the data has been read from the card or the card has been produced, we can implement a range of outgoing connectors to update those downstream third-party systems. So to pass that card serial number or information about the person out to your access control system and your cashless catering and your lockers and your barriers. And so all of those connectors just run in the background using the Bridge Data Connection service to synchronize and push and pull data between all the connected systems automatically. Now, in addition to using the connectors which we have, this growing suite of connectors which we can reconfigure, or connectors that we can develop, we also have a REST API available which can be used by our customers to actually write their own integrations. We have a connector approval certification program, so you'll have access to the API and the documentation, develop your own connector, and once that's done, that's submitted to our team for review and approval before it's made live in a production environment. But as I say, it shows we've got a lot of different options there, so in terms of manual data entry, CSV import, or using the Bridge service or the API to integrate with those upstream and downstream systems. Now, for the purpose of the demonstration I'm going to go through today, we're going to use a blank record that I have here, or a basic record which has got some initial information about a person. And we're going to use this record here for Gemma. And what we're going to do is we're going to assume that we've already used the Bridge service to synchronize the data and bring it in from the HR system, student management, whatever we're connected to for that particular case. And we're going to use self-service enrollment. And to start this journey, we need a very basic amount of information. We need a person number, so an employee number, a student number. We need first name, last name. We need an email address, and we need a profile. And profile is what type of person are they? Are they staff, student, contractor, visitor, member, whatever that might be. And you can have as many profiles as you wish, and you can name those profiles. They're not fixed. With basic information in place, what will happen is the data will come into CardExchange Cloud, and CardExchange Cloud will then from there automatically generate what we call the welcome email. So the welcome email will look something like this example here, and it goes to the cardholder. Now it's all fully configurable in terms of content, whether it's plain text or HTML, and this is really that first point of contact with the cardholder to let them know why they're being asked to follow this process, to actually upload their photo ID, to give them some guidance on best practices on good quality photo, and to really help them understand the whole process. The emails are always configured to come from each individual customer's SMTP server, so they don't come from CardExchange Cloud. They come from a recognized email address to the cardholder. And at this moment, it's probably important to talk about the next service we have available, which is CardExchange Secure. Now, Secure is our single sign-on integration, particularly relevant if you're using the self-service enrollment part of CardExchange Cloud, which I'll talk about in a moment. That's called Stand. So with the secure single sign-on integration, you have the option to replace our authentication platform where the person clicks on a link, sets a password in our system and then logs in with that. You have the option to redirect them to your single sign-on platform, so Office 365 or Okta or one of these other standard platforms, where they authenticate using your own authentication platform, and as long as they complete that, then you redirect. The big advantage that gives is it gives a very seamless user journey. The user's authenticating via a platform they recognize. They're using existing credentials, maybe their Office 365 credentials. So rather than having to set that new password for CardExchange, they're automatically redirected to a familiar place. They sign in with those details, and then you automatically redirect them to CardExchange for upload of their photo and their ID. You'll see the user will click on this link here, and then having authenticated either via our platform or your own, they will be taken to CardExchange Stand. Now, CardExchange Stand offers a number of different things. It is our self-service enrollment portal. The CardExchange Stand service also delivers our virtual and mobile credentials. Now, it's available in 3 variants. You can either use it via the web browser, which is typically used for enrollment. Then we also have dedicated iOS and Android apps, which are typically used for delivery of the virtual and the mobile credential IDs. So at this stage, what I've done is I've got Stand scaled as if it is a mobile device, but it will automatically scale to desktop, tablet, whatever device you're using. So the user will receive the welcome email, they've clicked on the link, and then from there they will sign in. And I'll just sign in with my demo. Yeah. Okay. And then what will happen is the user will now be directed to a step-by-step enrollment wizard. And so it's automatically scales to whatever device they're using. So this part is all happening in the browser. We're not using the app at this stage. That will come after the enrollment when the actual credential is delivered. Now, all of the steps of the enrollment wizard are fully configurable, so you can choose which steps are displayed, which ones aren't. You can set the branding, so you can have your own logo, and also the wording of each step can be configured. So we start with a welcome message. We then have a privacy policy, so you can have a link to your privacy policy so the users can understand why they're using the system, how their photograph and any personal data they enter will be used as part of this enrollment journey. The next step we have as an optional one is to ask them to upload an ID document. Again, the text, the sample imagery here can all be configured to meet your individual needs. The reason you have the option here to upload a ID document is if you are using remote enrollment, so you're having somebody upload a photo or an ID and they're not actually sitting there in front of you, how do you actually know that the photograph they upload is of that person? By asking them to upload an identity document, so a passport, a driver's license, national ID, or some other recognized photo identity document, we can compare the photograph on the ID with the photograph they upload at the next step to ensure they are the same person. Now, we use Microsoft's facial recognition technology for this, and I say it will simply take the photograph from the ID and it will give us a percentage match of the ID photo compared to the photo the person uploads. We're not doing any external identity checking, and we are not sending or sharing this ID document with any third parties. It remains purely within CardExchange platform for the purpose of ID verification and comparison. And then typically when the photo is then approved, as I'll show you, we actually automatically delete the ID document. You can choose to keep the image if you wish, but most people for GDPR purposes and information security prefer to delete the ID document after verification. You can either take a photograph of the ID or upload one from file. I will, for the purpose of this, upload a sample driver's license from file. So you can just check it. When you're happy, you can submit that. We then go to the next stage, which is to submit the photograph. Again, text and photo guidelines can be completely configured to meet your individual needs. And then on the next stage, again, the person can either take a photograph directly with their mobile device or upload one from file. I again will upload an image here from file, and then you can either retake or submit it. Now we now see the photos being uploaded, and what's happening at this moment is that photo that's been submitted is being compared to the photograph on the ID document. In the background, a match score is being issued, and you'll see that in the photo approval screen in the coming stages of the demonstration. But also a number of other things are happening to the photograph. So based on the configuration, well, firstly, the system will crop every photo to the same size and ratio. It will check to make sure that it is a photograph of a person, that they're looking directly at the camera, and then you have other settings to say, will you accept photographs where they're wearing hats and sunglasses and things like that. So based on the configuration you've set, the system can either automatically reject the photo at this stage and ask them to upload another one, or it pushes it through for verification and approval. The other thing you can do is set automatic approval and rejection thresholds for photos. So based on the percentage match that's given to every single photo, you can optionally choose to say anything that has a percentage match of, let's say, under 40%, reject it outright and ask the person to upload a new one. Anything that's maybe 80% or higher, automatically approve. And anything else in the middle, refer for manual verification. For the purpose of this demonstration, I have it all set to manual verification so we can see all of the steps of the process. But I say anything, any configuration or anything that's not configured in terms of the settings for the photograph and the photograph didn't meet it at this stage would cause that photograph to be rejected. But this photograph meets the required setting standard. It's been cropped and set to the same size and ratio as all other images, and is now ready to be approved. Moving on to the next step, we have a page where optionally the person can be asked to submit other information. Now you can choose any fields within the system to present here. So you might ask for emergency contact information, vehicle license plate registration number. You may have to fill in some other fields. But a good example here is to ask the person actually to choose where they'd like to collect their card. So we've got a very simple drop down here with different locations. So the person can choose where they'd like to collect their card from, and we can use that in conjunction with the print clients, which I'll talk about later, to actually automatically filter where that card is sent for production. So based on the location the person chooses to collect their card is automatically sent to that location for production, so they can collect it from the nearest place to them. So having submitted that information, we then just have just a confirmation page, and then from there they are taken to a virtualization of their virtual ID. Now I'll come back and talk about the virtual ID in a few moments. The only thing I want to point out at this stage is you'll see that the photo currently has a status of pending approval. So they're seeing this as virtualization in the browser version of CardExchange Stand. They see it's pending approval. And what will also happen at this stage is the cardholder will receive an email confirming their details have been submitted, thanking them and letting them know the next steps. And again, the wording and the content of that email is completely configurable to meet your needs. So back in Controller, an operator can now go into the photo approval screen to review the submitted photographs. And you can have the system set notifications or emails to a nominated approver to let them know when they have new photographs to approve, or they can just come in here periodically and check. So we see here we have the photograph that's been submitted by Gemma. So we have the photograph, we have the ID document, and this is the percentage match that I spoke about that's given by Microsoft for the photo. And so that can be used for automatic approval or rejection. You can review and approve or reject photographs individually or in bulk. If you reject a photograph, you will be asked to choose why you're rejecting it. The reject reasons are fully configurable. You can choose your own reasons in the system setup. And then when you reject the photograph, the system will delete the rejected photograph, and it will automatically send an email back to the cardholder telling them their photo has been rejected and why. And then it will resubmit them a link so they can go back through and re-upload their photograph again. But in this case, I'm going to approve the photograph. So as soon as we approve the photograph, we see it goes from the approval list, and then the system will send an email back to the cardholder to let them know that their photo's approved. Just takes a moment for the photo to email to come through. Whilst we're waiting for that, we'll just look at the actual ID itself. So having approved the photograph, let's say the system will generate an email back to the cardholder to let them know their photo is approved, and that will include links at this stage for them to download the iOS and Android apps where they can actually use their virtual ID. So the cardholder then clicks on the link, they install the app, they then sign back into it with the same credentials they use for enrollment. And if we refresh this virtualization, what we now see is the photo status has changed to active. So this is exactly how the ID will look in the CardExchange Stand virtual ID app. There are a number of configuration changes you can make to it. So the virtual ID is portrait, your logo will be at the top of the screen, and then you can set the color scheming to meet your individual corporate requirements, or maybe to have different color schemes per profile. So we talked about before how we can have different profiles, so staff, visitor, contractor, student, whatever they might be. And then you can set a different color scheme for each one. So you might have a blue virtual ID for staff, a yellow one for students, green one for contractor, red for security. So anybody can check in them, can see at a glance, the type of person that's displaying the ID to them. The photo is here with a status. We'll have status of either activated, expired, blocked. So you have different information that's live information status about the ID, which is really useful for the person to check that, to see that status information in real time. And then you have configurable fields. So you can choose which fields are shown on the ID and in which order. Here we have name, ID number, and profile. A lot of people typically will include an end date there as well. Moving further down the ID, we have a barcode to the right. This can either be a QR code or a 1D barcode. The QR code has a moving timestamp underneath it, which is a really good security feature, as is the animated GIF that rotates on the left-hand side. We have the animated GIF there and the timestamp on the QR code because it ensures that anybody who is then checking that virtual ID is looking out to ensure that it is a live ID in our app, and not a screenshot that somebody's taken of somebody else's and edited. So as long as they've got those moving elements on the barcode and the animated GIF, then you can see that it is a live ID in our app. The barcode can be linked to any field or fields within the system, so you can use it for maybe cashless catering, library systems, time and attendance, however you want to use that barcode. But if you don't need it, it can also be hidden from the ID itself. You have some other options on the virtual ID. You can manage statuses of physical credentials. Based on the configuration, you may allow the person to view and edit their personal information. You can send push notifications to the app, and they have a few configuration settings they can use. So as you can see, at this stage, this person has gone through a very simple enrollment journey. Their data has been added to the system. They've received an automatic email. They've submitted their ID and the photograph, which has been approved by an operator, and immediately now this cardholder has a virtual ID in our app on their phone that they can use either as their ID if that's all that's required, or as a temporary ID until their physical card is printed and delivered to them, or as a combination of them both. The other option that we have for the Stand virtual ID is to support integration with mobile access control platforms. Now, this is something we are developing, adding more and more mobile platform integrations as time goes on. At this stage, we have integrations with the HID mobile access platform and the Sorto mobile access platform. What this allows you to do is to not only deliver a virtual ID using the CardExchange app, but also to deliver a mobile access credential, a token to that person's smartphone. And so long as then you have mobile access enabled readers, so readers as part of your access control system, your HOD or your Sorto one that supports reading from mobile devices, the cardholder can then use their mobile device, their phone, to unlock doors rather than having to actually use a physical card. So it just gives you that flexibility to say, as an alternative to a physical card or as a complementary option, you can have the option of either using physical or a digital credential for displaying that virtual ID, but also for unlocking doors via an access control platform for one of the ones we support. So just moving back, just to confirm it's come through now, that email, so you can see the email I mentioned. So as soon as that photo is approved, the email comes back to the card holder. That's the email they receive with the links to download the app, which I've just shown you. And again, as always, content, format, everything within the email can be completely configured to meet your individual requirements. So we've seen simply how that person can have a digital or mobile credential delivered directly to their phone. What we'll do now is we'll look at the part of how we manage the production of the physical card. So having produced having received the photograph from the person, CardExchange Cloud can automatically create a card, a physical card, in the background ready for production once the person has an approved photograph. And what we see here in the production control screens is we have the status, which is approved for production. So this is everybody that qualifies for a card, and they meet the requirements in terms of having all of the data and having an approved photograph. And once that person has an approved photograph, their record will appear here in the approved to production screen, ready for you to authorize a card to production. This stage can be automated, but again, I've set it to manual for the purpose of demonstrations. So what we'll do is we'll now approve Gemma's card to production, and from here this card will move to the status of print. And if we look in the print tab here, these are all the cards which have been sent off for production and are ready to be printed. Now, in terms of printing, we have some options. So the standard option is to use the CardExchange Press application, which is the one you're seeing on screen now. And this is our local Windows-based print client. So we use a Windows-based print client for printing and encoding to allow us control of the ID card printer that's connected. CardExchange has a strong relationship with all major card printer brands, so we support all card printers in terms of printing and encoding, but we typically have to control movements of the card at a very low level within those printers. So we use a Windows application so we can communicate directly with the printer to send the print data, but to also control the encoding of the card, the reading of information back from the card. And that might be a MyFair card, DesFire, HID I-Class, COS, even a magnetic stripe encoded card, or a chip card. So we've got a lot of options in terms of printing and encoding those cards. But this print client gets installed on any location where there is a printer, and these print clients can be located anywhere in the world. Now, if you remember, during the enrollment stage, we selected a collection location for the card. What you can do is if you've got multiple office locations, campuses, either regionally or internationally, at each of those locations where you're printing cards, we can apply a filter so that when the person chooses where they want to collect the card, or where as an operator you want the card to be printed, we can filter those jobs so they're automatically sent to those locations for production. We can even have this print client set to automatically print the new card as soon as it appears, so an operator doesn't even need to touch on this interface. So I'll just manually refresh the data, and then we'll now see that our card for Gemma is displayed here. You'll see that as we change from the different templates or the different person types, the layout changes automatically. So we have conditional layouts controlled by the type of person. And the physical card design is fully configurable. So landscape, portrait, single-sided, double-sided, whatever content in terms of text, graphics, barcodes, all of the imagery, all fully configurable using the very powerful designer that's built into CardExchange Press. So I say Press will handle the printing and the encoding of data of the card. It will also handle things like reading back the chip card serial number, which gets stored back into CardExchange Controller for use in the downstream systems. So I shall manually print here the card for Gemma, and then we see that once the card's printed, it will disappear from the production list because the card's printed and it's now ready for issuance. Back in Controller, if we go to the Approved for Issuance stage, we see that the record is sitting here now. So it's ready now to be issued to the person. And this is typically the stage where the operator takes the card from the printer, they check to make sure it's printed correctly and they're happy to issue it. And at that moment, they click Approve. What that will do now is it can trigger, well, it will move the card to the final stage, which is activation. but it can also trigger an email, which will come through in a moment, to the cardholder to let them know that their card is printed and ready for collection. Once they've collected the card, they can activate it, and activation can happen in a number of different ways. It can be done automatically, so you can actually have all of these production steps to be fully automated, so that as soon as the card's printed, an email sent to the person to let them know that their card's ready for collection, and the card can also be automatically activated at that stage as well if you wish. We leave activation as a separate step because typically it is the moment the card is activated that we use our downstream connectors to pass the information about that card to the different third-party systems that need to know about it. The reason we do it that way is if you were to send the card to the cardholder by post, rather than having an awful lot of cards in circulation or being sent to people that are already active, you can actually have it so cards are sent to the cardholder in an inactive state, and then when they receive the card, they actually activate it themselves via the Stand app. But I say we'll activate it manually here. We'll assume the person's come in to collect it and activate the card. We see that their emails now come through to tell them their card's ready for collection. Again, a very basic email, but again, you can have whatever content you want. So Gemma receives an email, tells her that her card's ready for collection. She goes into the office to pick it up, and then the operator hands the card to her, and it's activated. And I said that is the moment now we push that information to the downstream system, so no operator has to now manually enroll that card into all those other third-party systems. As soon as the card is handed over, it's active, it's ready for use, and the person can start to use their ID card. And they will also receive a confirmation that their card is now active and ready for use within the system. Now, so all of those steps I've shown can be set to be as manual as you wish or as automatic as you wish. So you can have the system set so as soon as the photo is approved, the card is authorized to production, it's sent to the printer can even pick it up and print it automatically, activate it straight away, and send an email to the person to let them know the card has a card ready for collection. So as you see, the power, or part of the power within CardExchange, is that ability to automate all of those production processes. So rather than having a lot of manual intervention or a lot of user operator tasks, the system will handle all of that for you. It will keep both employees, people who need to do things, informed, and it will keep the card holder, the person who's waiting for the card, also informed of the status of the delivery of their card. So the last thing we will now look at is what happens if that card is lost and needs to be replaced. So we see in the credential history, the person has the credentials for all the different types of credentials they have. The credentials are categorized or split by the type. So if they have a different technology card, or even a mobile credential, so a H&E mobile or a Salto mobile credential, and a physical one, they'll see the history for each of those listed separately. Under the history, you see the information about who created the card, who approved it to production, who printed it, who approved it, and who activated it, and when all those statuses happened. If the card holder loses their card, they can change the status themselves. They can freeze it or block it via the app. That can be used then to trigger a notification to employee to let them know the card holder has reported their card as blocked because they've lost it or it's been stolen. That will automatically block the card in the downstream systems. So if it's a Sunday afternoon and the card holder realizes they've lost their card, as soon as they report it as lost within the app, the card will be automatically disabled in those downstream systems. So should somebody find it, it can't be used. An operator can then choose to block that card. So they can come in here and say, we're going to block this card. Choose why it's been blocked. Again, these reasons can all be configured. So we'll say that this card is going to be blocked because it's been lost. So the status of that card changes. And now and only now can I actually create a replacement. So if I try to create a replacement before blocking that previous one, it would give me a notification that the person already has a credential of that type in circulation, and it won't allow me to create a replacement. Because I've blocked the card, I can now create a replacement, which then goes into the audit trail and is automatically sent back to the approved for production screen, ready to go through the process of reprinting the card and re-notifying the card holder when their card's ready for collection. And that's the life cycle element of CardExchange. So it ensures that only one card of each type is in circulation at any one time, And in order to replace a card, you must first block the previous one and state why you're blocking it. So it just ensures security, saying you've got that complete audit trail and you understand, when you look at the history, who did what and when they did it within the system. So that really covers the end-to-end enrollment journey using CardExchange Cloud. Hopefully this demonstration, you can see how quick and easy it is using the data synchronization for the data to be synchronized and pushed into CardExchange, for CardExchange to send that automatic enrollment email to the cardholder, for the cardholder to submit their details via the app, the operator then to approve or review and approve that photograph, for the automatic delivery of the mobile or the virtual ID to be delivered to the person's smartphone, and how simple then the production process is, and the delivery and the creation, and also the notifications around producing that physical card. And then lastly, how we block and replace and manage the life cycle and control of those cards. If you need further details, any member of the CardExchange team will be more than happy to take you through a one-to-one demonstration, answer any questions you've got, any more details. So feel free to get in contact with us. Thank you very much.